Now that you have built a complete cost optimization approach using FinOps, tagging, budgets, and savings plans, you are ready to bring the entire architecture journey together in one end-to-end case study. This lecture is where you prove that the ideas you learned are not isolated topics. They are one connected system. You will walk from landing zone decisions all the way to production readiness, using a realistic enterprise scenario and leadership-focused architecture choices that balance security, reliability, performance, and cost. With the purpose clear, you now set the scenario so every design choice has a reason. Imagine your organization is launching a new customer service platform that includes a web portal, application programming interfaces for mobile clients, an internal agent dashboard, and analytics reporting for leadership. The platform handles personal data, supports revenue critical processes, and must remain available during peak demand, including billing cycles and outage events. Your leadership expects fast delivery, strong security, and predictable cost. Your job as an architect is to design a platform that can scale, remain governable, and survive both operational failures and security incidents. With the scenario established, you now define success in business terms, so architecture decisions stay aligned. Success means customers can access services reliably, agents can support customers efficiently, and leadership can trust reporting. Success also means security controls are defensible, compliance evidence is available, and costs are explainable. You are not aiming for an academic perfect design. You are aiming for a production-ready design that leaders can sponsor, teams can deliver, and operations can run without constant exceptions. With success defined, you now start where real enterprise delivery should start, the landing zone. You design management group structure so production and non-production have clear separation, and you apply enterprise guardrails at the right scope. You define subscriptions that align to ownership, cost attribution, and risk boundaries, including a shared platform subscription for core services and workload subscriptions for production and non-production. The leadership value is accountability and predictability. The architectural value is consistent inheritance of policies, stable boundaries for access control, and a scalable structure that does not collapse as more teams and workloads arrive. With structure in place, you now implement identity decisions that make the environment safe by default. You use Microsoft Entra ID design principles, so access is continuously verified, privilege operations are controlled, and conditional access decisions align to risk. You apply role-based access control, so platform teams, security teams, and application teams have only the access they need, at the scope they need, for the time they need. You also ensure that production access is governed more strongly than non-production access. The leadership outcome is reduced breach risk and improved audit confidence. The architectural outcome is a clean operating model, where responsibilities are clear and investigations are easier. With identity and access controlled, you now design the network so the platform is reachable, private, and containable under attack. You choose hub and spoke, so shared controls and connectivity live in the hub, while workloads live in spokes aligned to environment and ownership. You apply segmentation so sensitive components such as data stores and key services are in protected zones, and lateral movement is limited. You design controlled inbound and outbound traffic patterns, so exposure is deliberate and monitored, rather than accidental. Leaders care because this reduces incident impact and supports compliance. Architects care because it creates predictable routing and supports private access patterns consistently. With network foundations established, you now lock down exposure with secure private access and secure administration patterns. You design private endpoints and private domain name system resolution for sensitive platform services, so traffic stays inside controlled network boundaries. You design secure administrative access, So systems are managed through controlled internal paths rather than public remote access exposure. The leadership value is reduced attack surface and fewer emergency security incidents. The architectural value is a repeatable, approved pattern that teams can follow without inventing shortcuts. With connectivity secure, you now choose how the customer service platform will run. You might choose Azure Kubernetes Service for microservices that need flexible scaling and consistent deployment patterns, while keeping critical data services in managed database platforms. You ensure the workload hosting choice aligns to organizational maturity, operational capability, and reliability needs. Leaders care because runtime choice influences delivery speed and operational risk. Architects care because runtime choice defines how you implement scaling, resilience, security controls, and observability across the service. With workload hosting selected, you now design the data layer because the platform's trust depends on data integrity and availability. You store documents and files in scalable object storage, while transactional customer records sit in a relational database designed for consistency and performance. You separate analytics from transactional workloads so reporting does not degrade customer experience. You define retention and lifecycle policies that align to legal and business requirements, and you design backups and recovery plans that match agreed recovery objectives. Leaders care because data issues become legal and reputational events. Architects care because data design affects every part of performance, security, and recovery. With data architecture set, you now apply key management, so encryption and secrets handling are governed, auditable, and resilient. You store secrets centrally, control access through least privilege, and design rotation as a normal operation rather than an emergency. You apply encryption expectations for data at rest and data in transit, and you make key ownership decisions intentionally based on risk and compliance needs. The leadership outcome is reduced breach impact and stronger compliance posture. The architectural outcome is a consistent security pattern that prevents secret sprawl and reduces operational incidents caused by credential exposure. With core platform controls in place, you now ensure the system is observable and investigable. You design a logging strategy that captures identity events, control plane changes, workload telemetry, network signals, and data access patterns. You centralize logs for investigation and operational monitoring, and you define retention tiers for cost-effective long-term storage. You design Azure Monitor and log analytics usage, so alerts are high signal, ownership is clear, and dashboards serve both leaders and operators. Leaders care because observability reduces downtime and improves crisis communication. Architects care because observability validates design assumptions and supports continuous improvement. With observability established, you now ensure governance holds the platform together over time. You apply Azure policy guardrails that enforce tagging, logging requirements, private access expectations, and restrictions on high-risk configurations. You define compliance reporting that shows posture by environment, highlights exceptions, and tracks remediation progress. You ensure exceptions are time-bound and owned as explicit risk decisions. Leaders care because this creates audit readiness and reduces surprise risk. Architects care because policy-driven governance prevents drift and keeps the landing zone trustworthy as teams and workloads scale. With governance stable, you now design availability and recovery so the platform can survive real failures. You use availability zones for critical components where appropriate, align services to regional resilience where business impact demands it, and ensure dependency chains are included in the resilience design. You define recovery time objective and recovery point objective targets based on business impact analysis, not guesswork. You design disaster recovery patterns that match those targets, and you plan testing so recovery is proven rather than assumed. Leaders care because continuity protects revenue and reputation. Architects care because resilience design must be coherent across compute, data, identity, networking, and operations. With resilience designed, you now ensure delivery is safe and repeatable through secure DevOps. You use infrastructure as code, so platform changes are reviewable and auditable. You design pipelines that enforce quality gates, promotion discipline, and control deployment permissions, especially for production. You ensure secrets are never embedded in code and are retrieved securely at runtime. Leaders care because the pipeline is a high-impact risk path. Architects care because secure DevOps prevents drift, reduces human error, and makes delivery faster through standardized paved roads. With delivery secured, you now make sure the platform is financially sustainable. You define tagging and ownership, so costs are attributable to products and teams. You set budgets and alerts, so spend deviations are detected early. You right-size resources as usage patterns become clear and apply savings plans and reserve capacity for stable workloads where commitments make sense. Leaders care because predictable spend keeps cloud adoption funded and trusted. Architects care because cost discipline encourages better architecture choices, preventing waste from becoming a reason to abandon the platform. With the full design assembled, you now run a production readiness review that leaders and teams can rely on. You validate that identity and access boundaries are correct, that network exposure is controlled, that private access works consistently, and that administrative access follows the standard pattern. You validate logging and monitoring coverage, alert ownership, and incident response readiness. You validate backups, recovery objectives, disaster recovery procedures, and testing cadence. You validate governance compliance, exception status, and cost guardrails. The leadership value is confidence before customer impact. The architectural value is a repeatable gate that prevents avoidable production failures. With production readiness complete, you now summarize what this case study demonstrates from a leadership viewpoint. Leaders see a managed system where structure supports accountability, security controls are layered and defensible, operations has evidence and clarity, and costs are predictable. They see governance that enables delivery rather than blocking it, because teams have paved roads and standard patterns. Most importantly, they see that cloud adoption is not a gamble. It is a controlled program with measurable posture, clear ownership, and continuous improvement. That is what wins funding and long-term executive trust. Let's now discuss the key takeaways from what you learned so far so you can apply this end-to-end blueprint to real enterprise work. A production-ready Azure platform is a connected system where landing zone structure, identity controls, network segmentation, private access, observability, governance, resilience, secure DevOps, and cost discipline reinforce each other. You start with management groups, subscriptions, and guardrails to create scalable structure and accountability. You apply zero trust identity and least privilege role-based access control to control who can act and at what scope. You design hub and spoke networking with segmentation, private endpoints, private domain name system, and secure administrative access to reduce attack surface and contain incidents. You choose workload hosting patterns that match organizational maturity, and you design data architecture with separation of transactional and analytics workloads, lifecycle discipline, backups, and strong security patterns. You centralize logging and observability so incidents and audits are evidence-driven, and you use Azure policy governance to prevent drift and manage exceptions. You align high availability and disaster recovery to agreed recovery time objective and recovery point objective targets and prove readiness through testing. You enforce secure DevOps so pipelines deliver safe change with controlled identities and secrets. Finally, you use FinOps to keep costs predictable, attributable, and optimized so cloud adoption remains sustainable. If this end-to-end case study helped you see how enterprise Azure architecture fits together from landing zone to production, subscribe so you can keep building your architect toolkit with the next playlist and deeper case studies. Like this video, so more leaders and architects learn how to design systems that are secure, resilient, and governable. Comment with the part of the end-to-end journey you find hardest, such as governance, disaster recovery, or cost ownership, and share this with your team so you can align on one complete blueprint and deliver cloud platforms that the business can truly trust.